Back in 1997, something huge happened in Papua New Guinea's business world. A new law was passed, and it wasn't just a minor update, it was a full-blown corporate revolution. It completely changed the game for how companies work. So, let's dive into the story of the 1997 Companies Act and figure out what made it such a game changer. So, here's the big question at the heart of all this. For years, businesses in PNG were trying to compete in the modern world, but they were stuck playing by rules from a totally different time. It just wasn't working. Something had to give. And, well, it absolutely did. The 1997 Companies Act wasn't some small tweak or a simple update. Nope. This was a ground-up rebuild designed to drag corporate law kicking and screaming into the modern age. But, to really get why this revolution was so important, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at what they were dealing with before. This old, super rigid set of rules known as Chapter 146. And this really nails the core problem. The old rulebook, Chapter 146, was just static. It hadn't really changed for ages. It was built on these old-school, rigid ideas that just couldn't keep up with how fast business moves today. It needed to be flexible, but it wasn't. And it was pretty fuzzy on who was responsible for what. Bottom line, the whole thing was just completely out of date. So something had to be done, right? And what they did was introduce a whole new rule book for a whole new era, the Companies Act of 1997. And I want to be clear, this wasn't about just patching up a few holes. This was about pouring a completely new foundation. Now, they didn't just pull these ideas out of thin air. They actually looked across the water to New Zealand. See, New Zealand had just rolled out its own simplified Companies Act, which itself was inspired by more flexible ideas from North America. And the big draw? It was just simpler. It was a modern, straightforward way to run a company. All right, now we're getting to the really juicy part. This is the single biggest change in the whole thing. It was like they ripped out the old engine of the law and dropped in a brand new one. Okay, so the old way of doing things was all about this rule called maintenance of capital. The best way to think about it is like a locked treasure chest. A company's capital was this pool of money that was basically untouchable. You couldn't easily use it to do things like buy back your own stock. Sure, it kept the money safe, but man, was it restrictive. It really tied the company's hands. So, the new act basically took that locked box and threw away the key. In its place, it brought in something way more dynamic, the solvency test. Instead of being obsessed with a fixed pile of cash, the law started asking a much more practical, real-world question. Hey, after we do this thing, can we still pay our bills? And just like that, it unlocked a ton of financial flexibility. And here's how it works in the real world. It's basically a simple two-step dance. Step one, the people in charge, the directors, have to look at the books and make sure the company can still pay all its debts after the transaction. Step two, if the answer is, yup, we're good, then they can act. They can do things like hand out dividends or buy back the company's own shares, stuff that used to be a massive headache. Now, this new freedom wasn't just about moving money around. Oh no. It created a ripple effect that completely changed the balance of power inside the company, between the directors running the show and the shareholders who actually own the place. All of a sudden, shareholders had some real power. For the very first time, they got these incredible new tools, like something called a derivative action. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if you're a shareholder and you think the directors are running the company into the ground, you can actually step in and sue for the company to fix things. This was a total game changer for holding people accountable. And this table here lays out the new reality perfectly. On one hand, you've got the directors. They got way more flexibility to manage money. But, and this is a huge but, they were now personally on the hook if they were reckless. Then you had the shareholders, who now had the power to keep those directors in check. And the company itself? It could be way more agile, but it also faced some serious fines if it stepped out of line. And believe me, those penalties were no joke. You know the saying, with great power comes great responsibility? Well, the act put a very real price tag on that responsibility. We're talking fines up to 100,000 kina for directors who messed up badly. And that's not even counting possible jail time. The stakes were suddenly very, very high. Okay, so after all that, what's the big picture? Let's boil it all down to the key takeaways and really see the lasting impact of this whole revolution. I think this quote says it all. The attraction of the New Zealand legislation was its simplicity. And that's exactly it. The whole point wasn't to add more red tape or make things more confusing. It was to strip it all back, to make the rules simple, modern, and actually useful for running a business in the real world. So really, it all comes down to this new formula, the DNA of the modern PNG company. It's a three-part mix. Give companies the flexibility they need to actually compete, give the owners, the shareholders, the power to make sure things are run properly, and finally, put all the responsibility for making it work right on the directors' shoulders. And that really leaves us with a final, lingering thought. This act didn't just create new rules, it created a new balancing act, a tightrope walk between freedom and responsibility, between risk and reward. It's a walk that every single company in Papua New Guinea has been on since 1997. And the real question is, are they managing to stay on that tightrope?